before the 2023 fantasy football season even starts,
That's right.
run to your waiver wire
Here we
right
go.
now and check out if some of these names are available. We've got 10 players that you should pick up off the waiver wire because we're excited about what they could be this year, and maybe they pop off in week one. They weren't drafted in your league. So we have 5 each. We're going to go quick fire back and forth.
Yeah.
I'll go first. My number one priority right now that I believe should be rostered in every league, if you went late round tight end strategy and you don't have a guy that you feel super comfortable with, go ahead and add Jake Ferguson from the Dallas Cowboys, currently available in 95.6% of ESPN leagues and 80% of sleeper leagues. You can add this guy to your leagues right now. He's the unquestioned starter on a very good offense. Dallas Schultz left this team for Houston in free agency. They drafted Luke Schoonmaker in the second round, but he's been injured the entire offseason until recently. He's not going to be the starter. It will be Jake Ferguson. And Dak Prescott has been hyping the boy up, saying things like he's going to be a big-time player in this league starting in 2023, according to reports from The Athletic. Dak is also someone that you want to be your tight end starting quarterback. Let's look at Dalton Schultz's numbers for the past 3 years in fantasy. The tight end 11 in 2020, the tight end 3 in 2021, and the tight end 10 last year, despite missing a couple games. Over 3 years, Dalton Schultz is averaging on a year 94 targets, 66 receptions, almost 700 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Now Schultz leaves behind 89 targets. Again, only played 15 games. That's 5.9 targets per game. So Jake Ferguson will step into those shoes. They're very similar prospects. I would argue that Jake Ferguson is slightly a better athlete coming out of college. And this is a great offense to be a part of. We're talking about an offense with Dak Prescott, Tony Pollard, CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks. Dallas, the same team that was 4th in points per game last year. There's no reason to believe why Jake Ferguson can't be a top 12 tight end this year.
Yeah, like Jake Ferguson, one of these guys that sometimes if he doesn't get drafted, you're probably going straight to the waiver wires for, or maybe you're taking him even with your last pick. We've definitely seen that in multiple of our follower leagues and home leagues, so it's definitely interesting. All right, my first waiver wire priority so far right now, kind of giving you 2. Let's go straight to the home league, home team, the New York Football Giants, Paris Campbell, and I say or Isaiah Hodgins. Paris Campbell available in 81% of ESPN leagues and 85% of sleeper leagues. But when you think of this offense, we all know that Darren Waller is the number 1 target. Okay, that is 100% locked in, guaranteed. He is the number 1 target. But who is going to be the number 1 wide receiver on this offense? And I do believe it's between Paris Campbell and or Isaiah Hodgins. And one of the reasons why people are honestly avoiding Darren Waller, we've seen so many people on the Twitter sphere saying, well, there's nowhere I'm taking Darren Waller because we both currently have him as a top 3 tight end. A lot of people are saying, well, we don't want to take him because he's injury prone. I understand. Okay, then who are you taking at the wide receiver position then? And I think this is where I kind of want to give you, a little bit of, comfortability when you try to draft Paris Campbell or Hodgins. Obviously, talented wide receiver out of Ohio State, drafted in the second round of 2019 to the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah.
He got injured from the majority of his career. Last year was his first year he was fully healthy, and we saw little glimpses of what Paris Campbell could do when he was healthy. Wasn't exciting. It wasn't sexy. He did go with this QB purgatory type of season throughout his whole career. I mean, arguably playing with his best quarterback now in Daniel Jones, which is crazy to say. I mean, it really depends on how you see it. All these guys are past their prime. Jacoby Brissett, Phillip Rivers, Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan, and Nick Foles, all past their prime. Now going in with Daniel Jones, I think he can easily step in to be the number 1 slot wide receiver. Wan'Dale Robinson just got activated off the PUP list, but I think they're going to bring him in easily. And obviously, this is a bigger body wide receiver that we feel a little bit more successful. Really quick on Isaiah Hodgins, this is the reasons why. If Paris Campbell's not there, maybe Isaiah Hodgins is also available. Maybe you can pick him up with one of your last picks or on the waiver wires. Available in 94% of ESPN leagues, 84% of sleeper leagues. He was picked up off the street in the middle of the season. Weeks 13 to 17, over 250 yards, 4 touchdowns, averaging 12.7 fantasy points per game. He was a wide receiver 13. If Paris Campbell's not there, maybe Isaiah Hodgins is there, and why not take a shot on either one of those guys?
All right, yeah, if you enjoy this type of content and you want to get an edge on your league mates this year, go ahead, drop the like button for us, subscribe, because we're going to be putting out a ton of content for you guys throughout the year. My number 2 priority for me would be the running backs in Indianapolis. Now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and prefer myself Deion Jackson. But if Deion Jackson is taken, go grab Evan Hull. I would prefer, in order, I would say Deion Jackson myself. Deion Jackson available in 97.5% of ESPN leagues and 84% of sleeper leagues, widely available. Question, do you need a starting running back for 4 weeks minimum? Because if you do, all indications are pointing, at least in my opinion, towards Jackson starting in place of Jonathan Taylor, who is on the PUP list. Now, Evan Hull will play a role. He is a rookie. In the last preseason game, though, Jackson took every snap with the Colts starters over the first 2 drives, which ended in a 3-yard touchdown. So this is a team that has a couple really good matchups to start the year. Now, to be fair, this data is based off of what the teams looked like last year, so it's not all that reliable, but check this out. Based off fantasy points given up to running backs last year, the Colts' first 4 matchups, they faced Jacksonville in week 1, who gave up the 10th most points to running backs last year. In week 2, they faced the Houston Texans, who gave up the most points to fantasy running backs. There's not a single team that gave up more points to think about this. If you pick up Deion Jackson and he starts in week 1 and he gets you 15 points, and now you can sell him, telling the person who needs a running back that he's about to play Houston, that's incredible. They also play Baltimore. They're a pretty good defense against running backs. And then the Rams, who give up the 13 most points to running backs last year. And we have seen this last year that Deion Jackson was a startable asset with Jonathan Taylor out last year. He started 3 games in place of Jonathan Taylor. Those games were versus Denver, Jacksonville, and New England. In those 3 games, he averaged 17.7 total touches a game and 15.6 PPR points per game. So, look, the kicker here is, hey, you make this you make this pickup. Deion Jackson, maybe he's startable. Well, what if JT comes back? That's fine. You can drop him. What if JT gets traded? Because then you might have a season-long asset with one of these 2 guys. So it's worth taking the risk on them, and I would prioritize them on my waivers.
Yeah, one of the guys I've been trying to pick up is Evan Hall everywhere. If Deion Jackson's not there, Evan Hall, I do see the opportunity. One thing I think we should say is let's not be surprised if one of these running backs gets picked up off the street before week 1, before this video even comes out, hypothetically, maybe like a Kareem Hunt, a Leonard Fournette. Hypothetically. Just keep that in mind. So I'll go to my second waiver wire priority here, and that is Adam Troutman, the big Trout. He is available in both sleeper and ESPN leagues 100%. No one has picked him up so far from what I've seen. Maybe that will change over the course of the weekend or when you see this video. But let's talk about Greg Dulcich first, because we all believe he could be the number 1 tight end on this team, especially with the reports, unless with the history we saw and what we saw this past year with Dalton Schultz in the second half of the season with Russell Wilson. But let me remind you that the Broncos did trade for Adam Troutman, who is now in the offseason, who was originally drafted by Sean Payton in 2020. And I think that is the biggest kicker. He knows this offense. He knows this offensive scheme with Sean Payton here. And Sean Payton wants to bring in somebody he can trust. He believes in, that he drafted, that he was been working with for a couple of years now, I guess, for 2 years, essentially, because he retired in 2020 and then came back the year later, right? So let's not take that lightly either, because when you also think about Albert O, I'm not even going to butcher his last name, he also got traded away to the Eagles. So now when you look at the preseason, especially with all the reports coming out that Adam Troutman could be the number 1 tight end in this locker room, it's kind of daunting. It's kind of scary. And I know you guys will probably have drafted Greg Dulcich, but if Adam Troutman is truly the number 1 tight end, especially with the reports that are coming out, maybe it's worth picking him up if you have Greg Dulcich, or if you did a late round draft tight end strategy. Right now, take it with a grain of salt, but when you really look at the current roster construction, Adam Troutman is listed as the number 1 tight end. Greg Dulcich is listed as a number 2 tight end. But when you look at preseason, and hopefully you can see this on your screen here, week 1, Adam Troutman, 15 snaps, 9 routes run, 3 targets. Greg Dulcich, 10 snaps, 7 routes runs, 0 targets. That's in week 1. Once again, take it with a grain of salt, right? Week 2, Adam Troutman, 7 snaps, 5 route runs, 0 targets. Greg Dulcich, 11 snaps, 8 route runs, 1 target. What we've noticed here is that Adam Troutman has been on the field significantly, not significantly, but more than Greg Dulcich, period, right? And if that continues this season, we can truly see a good value with Adam Troutman coming to the 2023 season, being one of these tight ends that we should have drafted with one of our late picks. So once again, take all that preseason stuff with a grain of salt. But if this is true, why not pick him up if you have a free roster spot? Put him on your waiver wires. Maybe you have somebody on IR. Whatever the case may be, I think this could be a good opportunity to pick up Adam Troutman.
Yeah, there's a chance that Sean Payton wants redemption for that draft pick, and now he wants to show everyone he's right. And you know how stubborn Sean Payton is, what he said about the previous coaching staff in the previous regime?
My goodness. Yeah.
Guess who made the Greg Dulcich pick, right?
Yeah.
The previous coaching staff and regime. It's weird vibes right now, so I think it's a good move. Mm-hmm. I have a Bronco that I'm actually very excited. The next person I'm about to say, I think should be rostered. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, I think he should be rostered in every league. Just before I get to that, if you guys want weekly rankings from myself, from Badake, if you want the fantasy hotline, which is a direct DM to ask us advice on Discord the entire year, then go ahead and use our promo code LAND when signing up to the Mother Flocker tier on the Flock Fantasy website. Not only do you get the rankings, you get bonus articles, bonus videos, updates on waiver wires, injuries, things like that. So go ahead, sign up with our code. Check the pinned comment for more details. All right, my number 3 priority, which honestly, he might be my number 1 the more I think about it. That's Marvin Mims, wide receiver out of Oklahoma, currently available in 92.2% of ESPN leagues and 68% of sleeper leagues. Widely available, all these guys that we're bringing. This one is simple. I don't really need to get into too many analytics with this one. This is the first wide receiver that Sean Payton drafted in the Sean Payton Denver era. Scratch that. Not only the first wide receiver. This is the first player that Sean Payton drafted in the Sean Payton Denver Broncos era. He was the second-round pick for the Denver Broncos this year. They didn't have a first-round pick. Tim Patrick out for the year. Jerry Jeudy's dealing with a hamstring. Now, Jeudy didn't go on the PUP. A little bit surprised by that, I will be honest. But there's still a chance that he misses 2 to 4 to 5 to 6 weeks. It's really up in the air. And this team, we know from reports, have been actively looking to add depth to their wide receiver position. So you don't need to overthink this one. Multiple injuries could catapult what is a talented player into some instant opportunities. Right now, think about it. Javonte Williams coming back from the ACL.
Right.
Samaje Perine's a great pass catcher. But in the wide receiver room, it's Cortland Sutton. It's Marvin Mims. Like, there's not that many options to really throw the ball to here. And the good news is you always love to bet on young rookies in fantasy football because this isn't like another play I'm going to tell you guys about later where it's a vet that's stepping in and then the young guy, when he's back from injury, is going to come and take his place, right? Mm-hmm. This is a young player drafted by this regime who, if he plays well, we'll find out if he does. If he plays well, his role will only grow. You don't have a rookie play well and then be like, we're good. We'll forget about him. So Don't overthink it. Go pick up Marvin Mims.
Yeah, love Marvin Mims coming into this season. I already drafted him in multiple leagues actually, so I'm probably already ahead of the curve. But if he is available, 100% love that pickup. All right, my third priority here. Let's go to the Green Bay Packers wide receiver Romeo Doubs. Love
this one.
Available in 81% of ESPN leagues, 54% of sleeper leagues. And one of the things that, when we were watching these preseason games, and I really need to emphasize this, take it with a grain of salt, but Zach and I, we were watching this game with the first offense. Jordan Love was playing with Christian Watson, Jalen Reed, Luke Musgrave. Aaron Jones came in for one snap and then left, and then A.J. Dillon comes in. But when you look at this offense and Jordan Love, it felt like he was targeting everyone outside of, Christian Watson, who we suspect to be the number 1 wide receiver on this team. But if we take that, kind of like with Adam Troutman, if we take the information and say, okay, what can we read between the lines here? What are we actually seeing? I think there could be an opportunity where Romeo Doubs could be easily the number 2 wide receiver going into this year. And I kind of want to remind you of what happened last year. Doubs was a late round draft pick for the Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers obviously had Alan Lazard, Randall Cobb, all these Christian Watson, and all these guys were practicing with the first team. Romeo was practicing with the second team. He was practicing with Jordan Love. He was building that chemistry. Now he is the starting quarterback. Let me also remind you that during practice, last year, Alan Lazard got injured, where he missed a lot of time. Christian Watson got injured. And then we saw the emergence of Romeo step up. That's when Aaron Rodgers started talking about him, right? So that's when you kind of saw a little bit of chemistry with Aaron Rodgers, him understanding the offense. And we saw him kind of go off in week 3 when Christian Watson goes down, caught 8 for 8, 73 yards and a touchdown, over 17 fantasy points that week. But once again, if you go to the preseason snaps, just like Adam Troutman, you can see Romeo was on the field for the second most snaps in week 1 of the preseason, with the highest route runs and the second most targets in that week 1 preseason. And you go to week 2, matched it with Christian Watson in the snap per count, matched it in routes per run, but target Christian Watson. Remember, take it with a grain of salt because there was only 1 or 2 drives for both of these guys. But I think if this is the trend that we're seeing, I've been drafting Romeo as well, just like Marvin Mims early, depending on how many spots you have, round 14, 15. Sometimes we see him go even earlier. So I'm really excited about this guy. If you can get him as a wide receiver 5 on your team, I think he can really return some great value for you. So pick up Romeo Doubs if you can.
Yeah, Dubs should be drafted. So if he's not on a team, you definitely should get him on your squad. Absolutely. Yeah. All right, the fourth waiver wire I wanted to bring to you guys today is a rookie running back that I really love in Dynasty more than redraft. But let's talk about Kendre Miller, currently available in 87% of ESPN leagues and 58% of sleeper leagues. I like to call this one the mystery box special. Okay.
Okay, mystery box.
Yeah, anyone out there like sign memorabilia? You ever buy those mystery boxes? Like, oh, I'll spend $10 and who knows, maybe I'll get a. They know what they put in the box. It's not a mystery box. They know what they're selling to you.
All right.
But I call this one the mystery box special. The Saints spent a day 2 pick on Kendre Miller. That's important on its own. It's more important when you realize that Kendre Miller was injured throughout the entire pre-draft process. He was injured at the draft. It is super rare for an NFL team to spend a day 2 pick on a running back who is dealing with an injury. That's just not something that we see very often. Has shown some nice flashes here in the preseason action and put up extremely impressive film at TCU last year while helping them get to the national championship game. But the mystery is, what will Kendre look like before Alvin Kamara is back? That is the mystery. It's not like Alvin Kamara is on this team for the first 3 weeks. No, Alvin Kamara is gone. It's just Kendre. It's just Jamal Williams.
Right.
So if rookie Kendre Miller comes out and looks absolutely explosive, dynamic, just one of those rookie running backs that you cannot keep off the field, then you won't be able to keep him off the field. He will absolutely still be a big part of this offense when Kamara comes back. Or you can easily drop him if that's not the case, right? That's the whole point of being flexible through your waiver wire. So this is a rookie, good draft capital, really good film, good pass catcher. We saw that in preseason. And a team, by the way, that if things implode, they'll probably trade Kamara. They were already thinking about trading Kamara last offseason, or last year during the season. Bills were in, Eagles were in. So just someone, again, a mystery box. Add him. Something happens, then great. If not, drop him.
Yeah, it makes absolute sense. If he could take us off the first 3 weeks, then you're buzzing. Maybe you can sell him even then. I think that's also a pathway. All right, my fourth priority here, a guy that I loved and I feel like hasn't been getting a lot of love because he's been injured, and that is Jerome Ford, available in 92% of ESPN leagues, 81% of sleeper leagues. Let's keep it simple. He's the RB2 for this team, right? He's behind Nick Chubb. If Chubb goes down, Jerome Ford is the guy. I think he is also probably one of the, I would say, a great handcuff as well, right? I think we're kind of being overlooked, but what's really interesting is that if Nick Chubb goes down, we know that Jerome Ford can handle the workload on the ground, but he can also handle the workload in the air. And remind you guys, Kareem Hunt is no longer on this team, okay? He is leaving behind 123 attempts on the ground last year and 44 targets in the air in 2022, this past year with the Cleveland Browns. Now, Jerome Ford has been injured all through preseason. He got injured sometime during training camp, but he is projected to be back in week 1 for this team. But if in our Dynasty videos all offseason, we were projecting Jerome Ford to take over the Kareem Hunt role, but he's currently being, in some leagues undrafted. Some people are picking up after their draft. And I think this could be a perfect opportunity for you to secure this backfield if you do have a Nick Chubb, because we've all heard the reports of this Cleveland Browns team to open up this offense, from the head coach, from Deshaun Watson, from the players themselves, saying that this offense is going to change. The word's not saying that it's not going to be a run-heavy offense, that this is going to be a pass-heavy offense, which is really exciting. Especially, this is why Nick Chubb has been rising up, fantasy boards. It's because they are expecting the pass catching opportunity to go to Nick Chubb, and this could be the highest year he's seen. in the air. And if that is true, and we've seen the outwork with Kareem Hunt in the past, Jerome Ford could potentially eat and get a lot of opportunity in the air or on the ground at times. So I'm actually really excited about Jerome Ford coming into this season. So I think, don't overlook it. He's a guy that can easily be a good handcuff or a solid, RB2 if Nick Chubb does go down.
Yeah, and we've seen Nick Chubb go down before, and there'd be value there. And Jerome Ford was very productive at Cincinnati. Okay, the last player that I'm bringing to you, like this to me is like, if you went the onesie positions early in your draft, you went quarterback and tight end, let's say in the first 4 rounds each, and you need help at your flex position. I mean, I'm giving you a starting receiver for the next 6 weeks is the way I'm looking at it. Let's talk about Marvin Mims heading back to Motown, heading back to Detroit. No one's talking about Marvin Mims. No one is talking about it. And I understand because, Marvin Jones. No one's talking about Marvin Jones. And I understand because it's Marvin Jones. But he's currently available in 95.6% of ESPN leagues and 92% of sleeper leagues. This will be a starting wide receiver for 6 weeks for the Detroit Lions. DJ Chark was their downfield big body deep threat. He's gone. Right. He's in Carolina now. Jameson Williams is suspended for the first 6 games of the NFL season. Denzel Mims, who they traded for, they actually cut because of a preseason injury. And they just waived 3 more wide receivers during cut day. They currently have 5 active receivers on the roster at the time of recording this. So Marvin Jones will probably be the number 2 receiver right behind Amon-Ra St. Brown. He will play on the outside. We'll see Amon-Ra in the slot.
Yep.
Marvin Jones on the outside. Deep balls, red zone attempts. You're going to see that for Marvin Mims. He has sneaky flex appeal on a weekly basis until Jameson Williams is back. He's obviously a much better best ball asset, right? Because when do you start him? But think about it. Why couldn't he score a touchdown versus Kansas City in week 1? Why not? Why not? I mean, Laporta is a rookie. He's coming in. We don't know what to think about him just yet. Outside of Laporta, it's Amon-Ra St. Brown, right? Is it going to be Khalif Raymond in the red zone? Like, maybe, but Marvin Jones has a very good chance. We know how effective he's been in the red zone over his career. So he'll be the big body downfield threat. Drop him when Jameson Williams is back, or trade him. Let's say he does go off versus Kansas City and he's sitting on your bench. Trade him. To somehow improve your roster. So again, it's 200 IQ play, free starter on your team for a little bit.
Yeah, I like Marvin Jones. I mean, I see the same way with obviously Sam Laporta, but rookie tight ends really difficult to predict coming into this year. All right, the last priority on this list, probably the most controversial. People hate this name. When you say his name, people throw up in their mouth a little bit. I think that is Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Okay. It's not sexy.
Yeah,
it's not sexy whatsoever, but we have to be honest. What if it's Clyde? What if Clyde is healthy? What if Clyde can play a full season? We saw that in the first 4 weeks of the season last year. Weeks 1 to 4, averaging over 17 fantasy points per game, getting 2 touchdowns, over 200 yards. Mostly his work in the air, not on the ground. But that's exactly what everyone is saying. Well, Clyde is not a good, running between the tackles type of running back. That's why you have Isaiah Pacheco, who's clearly the better running back on the ground. But in the air specifically, I know you have Jet McKinnon. I know Clyde is there. But if Clyde is healthy, they want to utilize him like they did this past year, in my opinion, until he got hurt. And when you really look at that offense and you look at what happened when Clyde did miss time, Jet picked up the slack. Because Clyde, maybe I'm overthinking it. But this is why I'm thinking about waiver wires. When Clyde went down and he missed all that time, Jet McKinnon really took off, and he was a guy that was, a league winner for you guys last year. So if Clyde hypothetically can play the full season, can stay healthy and be the primary pass catching back, because you're thinking about it in a PPR perspective, why not take the chance? This is why waiver wires, I would say this is the last priority on my list. This is why he's number 5 on my list. The last waiver wire priority on my list, that if you don't get him, I don't really care. But if there is a chance for Clyde to be successful, even if it's the first half of the season, it could be something really special here with Clyde. So I will try and get Clyde if you can.
Yeah. Okay. And again, premise of this video is hopefully 2 out of the 10 guys are really relevant fantasy players from the list we just brought you. Right. Right. Hopefully 2 or 3 out of these guys are relevant. The point is not that these are going to be league winners. It's, hey, maybe there's hidden value here that improves your roster as a whole and gives you more trade flexibility. So
Agreed.
do us a favor, go ahead, drop a like, subscribe, and we will see you guys in the next video. All up. Now that those idiots are done talking, who needs some rankings?
Hell yeah, I need some rankings.
Then use promo code LAND, L-A-N-D, for 30% off any membership at flockfantasy.com.
Oh.
It's so easy, even your grandma could scan that QR code right there.